Thank you for joining me. My name is Gray and I'm going through the book of Psalms. Today we are looking at chapter 54. It's a very short psalm, only 7 verses, but it's written by David and it's got a title as well, so it gives us context into when David wrote this. It says it's a maskil of David. When the Ziphites had gone to Saul and said, "Is not David hiding among us?" So this is one of the two times that the Ziphites, who were Israelites but had gone to Saul to tell on David where he was hiding. You'll find this in 1 Samuel chapter 23 and chapter 26. So when the Ziphites gone and told Saul, who was pursuing David to kill him, David sat down and wrote this. And verse 1 says, "Save me, O God, by your name. Vindicate me by your might." I love this. David comes out and cries out for God to save him. But look how he says it. Save him, not for anything but it's done, but by God's name. What does it mean? It means he's appealing to God's, because when you see it's by name, it's not just the name like the name God, but it is by his nature and character. David knew God's nature. David knew God's character and says, "Save me by your name," appealing to God's nature and character. And the second part of that verse, it says, "Vindicate me by your might." In God's strength, then he knew that's when he would be vindicated. Then it starts crying out in verse 2. It says, "Hear my prayer of God, listen to the words of my mouth." Really appealing God to take time to actually listen to the things that he is going to say. So what's David's problem? Verse 3 is what he's saying. He says, "Arrogant foes are attacking me. Ruthless people are trying to kill me. People without regard for God." So this is interesting. He calling the Ziphites people without regard for God, but they were also Israelites. So most probably because what they were doing was not part of God's will, that's why he did that. Verse 4, he says, he goes in. This is how David always does it. He starts crying out to God. It tells him what the problem is, and then it flips and starts declaring to himself. And I just love this. And this is something that we ought to learn. Listen, when we're going through this, let's just not look at what's happening, but also look at how David, especially David, he comes to God to cry out. He states his problem, but he doesn't stay there. Then he turns around and starts declaring by faith. And that's what he's doing in verse 4. He says, "Surely God is my help." He most probably is telling himself, he's most probably reminding God that you are my help. And most likely he could be telling his enemies that you're messing with me, but you have to know that God is my help. The Lord is the one who sustains me. And that's what David does always. He always turns around and starts declaring this truth in his life, speaking to himself. Verse 5 says, "Let evil recall on those who slander me." It's like it's prophesying and saying, these are the things that will happen to you. And he says to God, in your faithfulness, destroy them. He's asking God to rise up and fight on his behalf. Verse 6, again, I love David. He says, "I will sacrifice a free will offering to you." Now, this is at the point that he hasn't received his vindication. He hasn't been rescued yet, but he starts telling God what he is going to do. Now, free will offering. Now, you have to remember that in those days, the Israelites had specific sacrifices that they would do. So he says, "I will give you one that is not required, but I will do it because I want to. Not because you've saved me, but because I want to and because you are good." He says, "I will praise your name, Lord, for it is good." So he starts praising God already before he sees it. And that's really hard for us. But let's take a lesson from David. You cry out to God. You tell him exactly what it is that's going on in your life, what you require him to do. Then you start speaking the truth in your life. Start telling yourself that God is the one who rescues me. He will sustain me. And then you start to praise him. He says, "A sacrifice, a free will offering." That's a free will offering to him is praise. We start praising God even before we see the victory, even before we see the answered prayers. Verse 7, he's declaring as if it has already been happened. "For you will have delivered me from all my troubles, and my eyes will have looked in triumph over my foes." Brothers and sisters, this was David's life, but let's apply it in our lives as well. When we're going through things, when we come to before God, whether it's sickness, whether it's financial difficulties, whether it's really enemies all around you, ask God for help. But at the end, you always declare what God will do for you and continue to praise Him. Do not wait till you see the things come to pass. But thanksgiving, start giving thanks to God even before we say it. God bless you.